Let's go.
Okay, we roll this on. We're not many in the room, but people might be bumping in as well. But I start anyway, and hope you can take with you maybe to the others what I mentioned as well. But well, first of all, thank you to Jan Ots, Theodora Rettigan, and Britt-Marie Stenari here at Chalmers that have invited me to join you today here at the very beginning of the conference. My name is Arne Haldosson, and I'm Professor of Supply Chain Management here at Chalmers. Also engaged in research and teaching on circularity. This is also not a conference, so it's also nice for me to be here. I'm from Iceland. I did my PhD in Denmark. I've had formal positions in Finland, work now in Sweden. So Norway is only left for me on the Nordic map, also apart from Greenland and Faroe Islands. It's with a very great honor and pleasure that I welcome you all to the conference, the 2021 Circular Materials Conference. The topic is very, very important, and I would just like to share with you on a few slides how we approach this as Chalmers. This is a very big challenge that needs a multi-actor perspective, cross-disciplinary perspective, and I would like just on a few slides to share with you how we approach this, how we create a critical mass around a big challenge like this. If we start very briefly, I work at Chalmers, University of Technology, founded in 1829 with 3,100 employees and more than 10,000 students engaged in our teaching and a little bit research. And focus in education is on engineering, science, shipping, and architecture. So we have quite a broad portfolio of subjects that relate to even circularity as such. We have 13 departments, and these are in a way aimed to create a critical mass around subjects. But then we have big challenges like circularity, circular economy, renewable materials, and so forth that do not fit into these structures. So Chalmers has since 10 years ago established what we call areas of advance, where we bring people together from different departments, different subjects, to focus on a particular societal challenge. One of these areas is production, and this is where we find the home of circularity. So we try to be very challenge-driven as such in the area of advanced production. We focus on challenges like the transformation towards circular economy, the use of new materials. There we have colleagues from chemistry working with us. We also tap into industrial digitalization, and I also see that that's a theme that emerges in the conference here, to use technology to enhance the acceleration towards circular economy. And we also look into the workers as such, the people dimension in all this, and knowledge and jobs in the future industry. And in all this, we have to again bring people together. We work with four profiles in this area of advance, and I'm leading the one called Production for Circular Economy. But it's not only just manufacturing; it's production in a very, very wide understanding of the concepts. It may include the whole value chain and so forth. So if I give you just a very brief insight into how we cut the cake in a way. You see two images here next to 3 bullet points. Obviously, in teaching, we address the topic of circularity as a part of many courses, but more recently we started to create dedicated courses on circular economy, elective master, for example. When it comes to utilization, sustainable utilization, we have research centers who are our interface to industry. We two that are leading in circularity, and that's the Competence Center Recycling, a cross-disciplinary center focusing in particular on recycling, led by our colleagues at the Department of Chemistry. Then we also have we're hosts for the Swedish Life Cycle Center as well, that has very long roots in life cycle analysis. And in research, we try to engage in a way at different points of lifetime in a product or materials, and we talk about beginning of life, midlife, end of life, and even beginning of life too. And this entails that we also engage with different companies or stakeholders that help us to put this picture together. And when it comes to the research depth that we try to also aim for is that we have people working at policy level with value chains, with actual operations, product and materials, and the people dimension. So we cut across the system levels and also the lifetime of the products. This is the worldview we are working with to create a critical mass around circularity. And I think that many of the topics that I've seen in the conference theme fit very nicely into this. Just at the very end, I would like to share just a few things or thoughts on where we are right now with all this in the middle of COVID, hopefully in the second half of COVID. What we hear from funders and companies are 4 or 5 issues I would like to raise. One is we talk about system innovation, but now I think the funders are not only keen to focus on small efforts. We need to take a bigger approach. And I think this conference fits nicely into that arena as well, to create a critical mass, take a Nordic approach to circularity. How can we join forces? We are too much focusing on individual local solutions as such. The other 2 concepts that are emerging both in industry but also among the funders is transition. It's not about improvement or innovation and new solutions. It's about a true transition to fix the knowledge gap. We know often what to do, but how do we do the doing is one thing. And the second is the acceleration of the transition as well. How do we do it faster? And that is in a way a keyword I've seen emerging after the big hit of COVID, that we know that we can do much more than we knew that we could do in the past. So I think that COVID has taught us we can, at a very high level, in a system level and among key stakeholders that are connected together, we can make changes, but we need the driving force in doing so. So yes, we can. So now it's just to take the learning from COVID and this joint up thinking we created there and apply it somewhere else. There are some practices that we need to stop. I see that in our field that we are doing things that worsen circularity and usage of materials. And finally, there is also of concern. What we see is that even though we want to work with materials and turn things into second use, there's a big competition for our materials. And one is the energy sector, who is about to electrify a lot. And if electricity is to be a key source of energy in the future, also when it comes to heating and so forth, incineration is an issue here that is competing with some of the circular solutions. So what we are seeing in some cases is that maybe energy will eat circularity. So we need to be aware of that this system perspective is not just about those who are directly engaged in materials flows, design and so forth. There are other sectors as well, dynamics from other sectors that may influence what we are doing and how we're solving things. And on that note, I'm very thankful for having the opportunity to welcome you in this and by illustrating how we create a critical mass around circularity here at Chalmers, but also some of the issues that we believe help us, some of the driving forces on this slide here that help us to kick us forwards. So on that note, welcome to the conference. Really interesting agendas you have for the next 2 days. And on that note, I would like to leave the word to Peter Woodward. Peter.
Annie, thank you very much indeed for those words of introduction. Goodness me, I wish I was there at Chalmers in Gothenburg. I think this is my 3rd circular materials conference that I'll be moderating, this time the size of a postage stamp. I never thought I'd hear the start coming from university saying, yes, we can, but maybe that's very much the theme for this conference. Circular economy, transition to it is getting center stage now. And it's great for me. I'm here based in the UK. And I like to feel that I'm looking in because the world is looking in to the Nordic region, because we believe you are the pace setters, the visionary people with the skills, the expertise to actually lead the pathway towards circularity. And the next 2 days are maybe going to put some proof to that theory or otherwise. But very much the aim of these 2 days is to give all participants an opportunity to just see the richness and depth of research and innovation work that is taking place, and have an opportunity to engage with that. Obviously, the online format restricts our ability to interact, and I always feel that making great progress is about relationships. It's about people as much as about clever ideas, research, and all the rest of it. But we'll do our very best to make this a warm and energized space for you. So please, if you're out there looking in from your home office, just as I am, and I've just so you know, I've got the cat here to keep me on time. So I hope you've got home comforts if you're at home. Please do stay engaged with our conversation right the way through, and there's opportunities on the chat board, etc., to feed things in as we go through. Right at the outset, I really want in our first session to bring that sense of energy possibility into this space. And our first session on Nordic vision and delivery, we've got a number of people who are within organizations who are really setting the pace and daring to take us across that threshold towards circularity. And we're going to hear from 4 speakers and then actually give you an opportunity as participants to connect with other people through the wonders of Zoom chat rooms. And then we're going to have a little bit of discussion saying how are we getting on in terms of that vision and delivery. So that's our first session. And it's appropriate we start this morning just hearing updates on the Nordic approach. The Nordic innovation is part of the Nordic Council of Ministers, whose vision was that the Nordics should be the most integrated and sustainable region in the world in 2030. Why not start off with some real ambition? And I'm delighted really to share some insights on the work that is taking place with Nordic innovation with Marthe Haugland. Great to have you with us. You're Senior Innovation Advisor at Nordic Innovation, and really interested right at the outset to hear some of the work you're doing and some of the progress that you're making. Over to you, Marthe.
Thank you very much, Peter. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us and for wanting to know more about the Nordic perspective on the circular economy. I'll share my screen here and like that. Yes, as you know, the Nordic region consists of 5 countries plus 3 self-governed regions, the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and Åland. And we are also the 12th largest economy in the world, which I think means that people will look to us, as you said, Peter, and they will. We need to step up and to really walk the talk, like we say. I also want to say that the Nordics are good at many things. We're not very good at this production and consumption part of the World Development Goals. We consume way too much. We have way too much waste. So this is the background. But we are of course, very, very good at many things. We have good resources. We have a very digital population. And we are also quite environmentally aware, I think, though maybe not always in the right places. And we have some great Nordic values. Openness, trust, equality, and sustainability are really the values that we share in the Nordic countries. And I think that these are very good base values that we can use in the circular, going circular, because we have to change our system quite a lot, and it's quite urgent, as Arne also said. I just want to show you, we are part of this Nordic Council of Ministers. That's the intergovernmental body of the Nordic countries. And it has a lot of kind of ministries. So the Nordic Council is doing many things on many levels. And I think that, so you can see it here, lots of different policy areas, and also 12 organizations under it. Nordic Innovation is part of, Nordic Innovation is part of the Business, Energy and Regional Policy, and we are located in Oslo. And together, all of these ministries and our prime ministers have made this vision that Peter also mentioned, that the Nordic region will become the most sustainable and integrated region in the world by 2030. It's quite an ambitious vision, and we are very happy to work with that vision. And just to explain a little bit more on how they're thinking that we should do it, is that this green Nordic region, where you have the bio-based and the circular economy, carbon neutrality, very important, but of course we also want to keep it a competitive Nordic region, where together we can promote the Nordic companies' solutions, and so that we can also have a competitive industry. And then of course the socially sustainable Nordic region, where everybody is part of this transition to the most sustainable and integrated region in the world. And there are many policy areas in these different fields. So and many of these different people working in the different sectors are of course working towards circularity. Today I'll talk mostly about the business side, but there is of course also within the environmental field and the environmental ministries a lot of focus on the circular economy as such. This is Nordic Innovation, my colleagues. We are around 20 people, as I said, and we are working in Oslo. So it's a very dynamic gang filled with Nordic people. We have people from all of the Nordics except for Greenland and the Faroe Islands. So hopefully we will have colleagues from there as well one day. And within these, when we started working on circular economy in 2018, we looked to all the other, to what the Nordics are doing. Because as a Nordic Innovation, we have this, we have around 60 million a year, which is not a lot of money. It's the Norwegian kroners, not even Danish. And they should be spent on projects facilitating Nordic cooperation. We look and we work mostly with businesses and to facilitate business, both sustainability and competitiveness. And in this circular economy that we started in 2018, as I said, we decided to call it Nordic Sustainable Business Transformation. The companies have to transform. There are still missing a lot of strategies from the governments, a lot of regulations are still missing, but the companies need to move ahead if they want to become competitive, because companies in other parts of the world are moving ahead. So we should also be moving ahead, not to fall behind. And we decided to work on several action areas. Competence, giving the companies competence in order to be able to transform. And we had workshops with companies from all over the Nordic countries in circular business models. How could they take their company and pilot and work with circular business models in order to move towards the transition? You have to test, you have to start somewhere, and taking, you know, the circular economy just from strategic something to something concrete action. And we work with new solutions in here, trying to find, do we need any new solutions? We have a lot of solutions, but we need to be doing something. We need to change. And then circular cities. The cities are very good and big drivers for circularity. they're also the worst polluters, perhaps, and you need to work. But cities and regions in the Nordic context, because we don't have a lot of big cities in the Nordics, but we have a lot of regional cities, strong regions. And then at the end, we work a lot with ecosystems. Cooperation is key in the Nordic, in circularity, and especially perhaps also in the Nordics, getting the Nordic companies to work together, building those ecosystems and those networks that can take the circularity ahead. Just to show, we have a few projects that work on different areas of the circular economy. Perhaps those mostly related to materials, textile, industrial symbiosis, batteries, and metal waste reduction are those that are mostly related to the materials. And they are looking for new solutions that can then be implemented in the Nordics and beyond, of course. How can you reduce the waste from tinsmiths in the Nordics? There are quite a lot of companies in the tinsmith. They're quite small. How can they together make a difference? We also, during the part where we had these workshops for manufacturing companies, and I know Arne didn't, they are working with lots of more, not only, or manufacturing in a very large sense. We also work with manufacturing companies in the Nordics. They have quite a large footprint. We've chosen, or the energy, transportation, machinery and equipment, maritime, and the last one, construction. And we also now, just a few weeks ago, last week, I think, we launched this circular economy playbook. It's a very practical tool. It's a playbook, a playground playbook where you can play with circularity, play with your business case in your own company and in your value chain. Through this, it's online, it's free to use for everyone. And it has these examples from Nordic companies that have taken a circular business models. A circular business models, there are many different ones where circular material input is, of course, a really important and a good thing. And in the Nordics, we are trying to change to this circular material input, but of course, there are still other and difficulties with having a sustainable input into your production. And we would like everybody to try and test this circular economy playbook. It is really to take the circular economy from strategy to action. We tested it in kind of value chains or ecosystems where you have, because in a circular value chain, you need to work much more you need other companies, you need other partners than you have in a linear value chain. So that has been an important part of this circular economy playbook. Then I want to mention also another project that we have supported, which is the Nordic Circular Hotspot. It is a movement in a way. We've supported it with a bit of financing, and we'll try to give all companies a way to move to circular economy. And in this, they will also be launching this Nordic Circular Hub, where we can share, where we can all meet, discuss, share, and we will be at the like-minded persons together. And this will be launched in June. So I think that will be a very good bringing the Nordics closer together in this community, circular digital community for circular economy. Going forward, we are going to work on circular construction. The Nordics as a leading region for sustainable and competitive construction. And then we will continue working on the circular business models. I think it's so important for companies to take on and start practicing these circular business models. And here as well, we will work for the circular transition. Green and responsible business reporting is also a part of the important infrastructure for companies, as well as a green entrepreneurship region. And of course, there will be different kinds of projects and initiatives under here. Thank you. This was a very quick run out from the Nordic innovation and how we work with the circular economy. And I hope you got some food for thought. Thank you so much.
Marthe, that's great. Thank you so much, and really clear structure and approach that you're taking. Our big challenge is that clearly true transformation to a circular economy is fundamental, systemic change at all levels. But it's exciting to hear the work you're doing really at the leading edge of this, and it will be interesting over the coming months and years to see how we really scale up that transition. And in our panel discussion a little bit later, maybe we can talk about how we really accelerate and scale up the activity that's happening. But clearly you're
Absolutely.
highlighting some areas of activity, so thank you very much. Talking about scaling up, this isn't an agenda for university departments and certain large businesses. If we're going to make the change, as I say, systemic change, this is an agenda for everyone. Every community, every city, every region has got to find its way of being part of a circular future and finding joy and value in it. And our next example maybe illustrates how anyone and everyone can be engaged in aspects of circularity. The curse and joy of plastic is something we're all aware of, particularly in a COVID PPE world. And I'm delighted this morning we're joined by Jospeh Klatt, who's lead of operations at Precious Plastic, which is just a great idea and innovation about how people can actually take control of their plastic waste and do something productive with it. Not only is that a response to a plastic challenge, but maybe it's a response to hearts and minds beginning to think about circularity as bringing possibilities rather than just dealing with a problem. So Jospeh, great to have you with us this morning, and really interested in your take on creating a global impact with local circular economies. Jospeh, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Really glad to be here. I'm excited to share about Precious Plastic because we have a very grassroots, bottom-up approach that I think it's going to be interesting to share with you all. So I'm going to start with a video here from us to get us started. Just 1 second here.
Plastic bottle.
Plastic waste.
An ocean of plastic trash.
Plastic.
Plastic. Plastic. Plastic.
Plastic.
Plastic. Plastic.
Plastic.
Plastic is, well, it's everywhere.
So I guess by now you are quite aware of this big plastic waste problem. But all of this isn't really waste. With some love and care, the right machines, and with the right techniques, you will see that it's a precious material. This new precious material can be turned into big colorful sheets to make stuff with, a brick to construct walls, small functional objects, or fancy furniture. We, the Precious Plastic community, develop tools and machines to recycle plastic. And we've been doing that for 6 years, open source for free. And now it's time to take it to the next level. And we all need to work together fighting this massive problem. But how do we start? First, we need you to collect, clean and remove the label of your own plastic waste. And then bring it to a local precious plastic collection point. If you don't have a collection point or recycling community in your area, you can start your own recycling business and grow the community. Starting a business might seem scary, so we created starter kits. The starter kits are a package of information with everything you need to start your own small workspace. We created different packages for different workspaces. You can, for example, start a sheet press workspace, or shred plastic into small flakes in a shredder workspace, or build machines and sell them to others. And they all work together on a local scale and are globally connected, sharing knowledge. And we call this the Precious Plastic Universe. So if you're an entrepreneur, you can start your own business. And if you're not into business, share it around with your neighborhood. Some of them might want to start a local recycle network. Visit pressureplastic.com for more information.
Okay. So yeah, that was a little introduction to who we are as Precious Plastic and what we do. And a little bit of background, so that the guy talking in that video, that's Dave, he's a social designer, and he started Precious Plastic about 7 years ago. And he started Precious Plastic because of this plastic waste problem. He had done some traveling and really seen the impact around the world that plastic waste is having on our oceans, on our beaches, on our environment. And it really comes down to the fact that only 10% of the plastic that's ever been produced has been recovered or recycled. And that means that other 90% is still out there. So we need to think a little bit about recycling solutions when we think about all the material that we have already produced, and especially circular solutions for the materials that we use in the future. So when he was thinking about this problem, he was asking, okay, why? And from our view, it really comes down to the fact that there's inaccessible knowledge and tools with how to work with plastic as a material. On the tools side, most of the plastic recycling machinery looks kind of like this. It's large scale, it's centralized, it's expensive, and that's inaccessible for much of the world, especially the developing world, which has a lot of plastic waste problems. And then on the other side of that, the knowledge side, so plastic really scaled from a new technology in the late 19th century to a mass production technique in the 20th century. So it kind of missed that period of craftsmanship of working with plastic on a small scale to really spread the knowledge of how to work with this as a material. So at Precious Plastic, what we see is a solution of a network of people who work together on a daily basis to tackle the plastic pollution problem. And that is from the people who are generating the plastic, us as consumers, the collectors, the people who are designing new products, the people who are producing new products, the people who are distributing, really the whole network. And we view our network as something that's kind of alternative to the traditional system of recycling and production. We are very much bottom up and small scale and local. So the first thing that Dave did was to design some small scale plastic recycling machineries so that people could really work with this material, which was really not accessible on a small scale like this before. So a small shredder for people to shred plastic waste into small flake, and then 3 different production machines to actually turn this plastic waste to a new product. And that was also really about showing people that this is a valuable material. It's not a waste material, because ultimately what we're trying to do is change people's consciousness around plastic as material and help them understand that this is valuable and not something that should be put into single-use throwaway items. So yeah, and then we had sort of another generation of machines that were a little bit increased in capacity, because we really wanted to push the fact of small businesses using our machinery. So after the first couple of years, after Dave started Precious Plastic, a community around the world really started up copying his machines, because he published all the designs open source online for free. And he encouraged people to replicate the machines, because we made YouTube videos and showing people how to do so. And then this new generation machine was really trying to push the ability for people to make a small business from running this small scale plastic recycling machinery. Because as we all know, business really has the opportunity to change the world. So we put a lot of focus into sort of semi-industrial machinery, which came out just last year. So what do you do with this machinery? So really it's about making products. So here's some examples of furniture items made with different, some of the machines you saw previously. So chair, bench, stool, really sort of human-sized objects where you can feel the valuableness of the material. And we really focus on making beautiful colored products to really show people that, this is a valuable material. This is not something that should be wasted. So here are some carabiners, some small functional objects that we can hand out like at workshops, something like a light socket or even like a light here. We also experimented with designing building materials. So again, this is all open source. We would design the molds for making these bricks, these beams, and then we publish those designs online for free so people can replicate that. And we've seen that, of course, around the world, which is really cool to see. Here's again another sort of building project. This is a geodesic dome with a plastic waste connector product there. And here's a really beautiful table that we made, again, showing the story of the valuableness of this material. And then kind of the other half of what we do is really curate this online community. So today we have over 400 workspaces around the world that are actively using our machinery. You can probably find a precious plastic organization in almost every country in the world. And especially in the Nordic regions, we have a very large user base. So we've spent a lot of time also investing not just in developing and designing the machines, but also the online infrastructure. So of course, you know, we have a website, but we have what we call the Academy, where you can learn about how to work with plastic. So what kind of products you can make, what you should watch out for, how to collect it, how to process it, how to build the machines with step-by-step instructions, how to make a small business from this machinery in making products. We also have an online map so people can put a pin on where they're located so other people can find them. Events page, also how-to guides, so step-by-step instructions for how to do something related to using some of these machines. And these are user-generated, so these are from different workspaces around the world that have contributed to this global network of people acting locally. Then we have an online marketplace for people to buy and sell products, molds, and machines related to our precious plastic ecosystem around the world. So really the online e-commerce infrastructure for people to get this up and running in their local community. And yeah, so it's really kind of this circle of learning, connecting, building, creating, and then sharing back to our global community so that we can try to solve this problem together. And like I said, everything we do is online, put online for free. And that's because we believe this is the fastest way to develop and to design. And like I said, we have this online, this global community. Today, we have over 400 workspaces around the world that are using our machines to clean up, create, educate, and get income. Here's some examples from around the world. We have Shanghai, Uganda, Taiwan, Romania. And then people are also augmenting and hacking our machines to apply them to their local contexts. So making wooden versions, putting them all together for workshops, etc. And I just want to skip ahead to our impact. So it's kind of hard with open source projects to figure out your impact, but we did a survey in 2020 to try to ascertain some information about that. We found over $1 million of annual revenue, over 240 full-time jobs, people who have really are earning income from this, and then over 200,000 kilos being recycled annually. And I would really estimate this is probably only 20% or 10% of the actual impact from our operations. It's just a little bit hard to tell with our strategy of open source. We're okay with that, but we do like to get some numbers to measure our impact. Yeah, so that's a little bit about who we are at Precious Plastic, and I hope this is kind of inspiration for you to think about sort of bottom-up open source solutions for some of these problems related to building a circular economy. So thank you very much.
Joseph, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. It's fascinating. I mean, in my own, I live in a little village community of 2,000 people, and we spend many an hour talking about the curse and the problem of plastic, and just the thought of actually being actively engaged in being part of the solution rather than just cursing the darkness feels to me there's something very deep and profound going on in the approach that you're taking, particularly in terms of that connectivity, in terms of a open source community. So I want to tap into that a little bit more in our discussion further on, because maybe somehow we are remote from the problems and the solutions and assume someone else will do it all. But maybe there is something about hearts and minds engagement, a little bit like agriculture, where we just get this stuff on our plate, but have no notion of where it comes from and the processes. So I think some really significant thoughts and just some charm and delight in the approach you're taking. So really excited by that. Talking about charm and delight, we are going to go to the other end of scale now. 2017, a startup announced a bold plan to develop the world's greenest battery cell and establish a European supply of batteries to enable the future of energy. The future is largely electric. Northvolt have stepped into that space to offer a solution. As we scale up and accelerate, goodness me, the pressure is on to find those solutions that don't create another generation. And I'm delighted this morning that we're joined by Emma Nehrenheim, who's Chief Environmental Officer at Northvolt, an emerging global success story, I believe. Emma, it's for you to share with us a little bit of that journey and give us some sense of the possibilities that are emerging from a Nordic-based company. So Emma, great to have you with us and look forward to hearing a little bit more of the story.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the nice introduction. I'm going to start with trying to share my screen. Let's see here. Let's see. Desktop. Okay, share. Let's see if this is sufficient. Okay, I hope you can see my screen now. Is this okay? Yeah. Perfect. All right, let's back up. No, yeah, I was not very well prepared for this, but here we go. So my name is Emma Nehrenheim. I'm, as said already, the Chief Environmental Officer at Northvolt. I started the company 4 years back, so been there for the entire journey. We are now a pretty big company, and I'm here to talk about what I talk about most, which is raw materials and how we want to bring that into the circular economy. And it's important to note that this has been in the strategy all along. So in order to make it on this market in Europe, and in order to deliver on what we think that the end customer in Europe is gonna want and gonna demand from us, in order to accept the full electrification of the vehicle industry, we expect them to get all the materials back. A little bit about Northvolt. So we came into this because we thought that it was so incredibly important to serve also Europe with a local supply chain of batteries. As you know, Europe was far behind. Asia has been doing battery manufacturing for years. And in the US, there was already an accelerating development of EVs that we still suffer from. We are still about, I don't know, 5 to 10 years at least behind in technology development. And in Europe, we knew that we would have to scale tremendously fast and ramp tremendously fast in order to not be dependent on a global supply chain to make it into the electrification of the vehicle industry. And why is this important? I mean, it's important because Europe has been in the forefront of sustainability for, can I say forever? Is that okay? And if we want to set the guidelines for ourselves, we have to be independent. And that goes for building the technologies around the EVs and the entire infrastructure needed, but it also goes to the market of the supply chain and what material goes in, what demands we want to have, and how we want to build the supply chain demands. So we decided that we want to go further upstream. It was known by our founders, Peter and Paolo, that the supply chain of car manufacturing in the EV segment was pretty complex. you had to go through maybe 5, 6, 7 different supply chain steps. And that was sort of creating both margins, but also sustainability issues, of course. And also while doing that, you create difficulties in grasping and understanding. So we decided that if we do our own material, especially for the critical materials, such as the active material that creates the cathode in the battery, we remain closer to the miners. So we can be buying from very few players. And that was a part of the strategic agenda. On top of that, it also means that we can build our own little engine factory, because the engine in the EV, that's the chemistry. And this means that we can build high performance batteries if we can attract the talents of the world to really be in the forefront. So that's something that we've been focused a lot on. We are a very clearly a tech company, and we are a tech company in a very wide span, all the way from chemistry to automation to mechanical, all the engineering fields that you can basically find. Very interesting. And as part of that, as I said, we want to offer the best performance in the battery chemistry, of course, but also the best performance in terms of sustainability. So we did some promises. We promised that we will have the highest recycling rates, and we promised that we want to have the lowest carbon footprint. And now we are running to deliver on that. We will be on this planet for a very long time. And there is one question that I'm always asked by every moderator, by every journalist, by everyone on the street, basically, that are interested in these kind of questions. And that is, what happens with Congo? What will you do there? And therefore, already the first year, we decided that we would travel to Congo. And we know that the cobalt comes, 75% of it comes from Congo. And what we learned was very simple. Yes, there are very poor mines there. There is a very poor community. There are also good technologies. And we are still struggling to find a good project in Congo. So far, we haven't signed any because we are not comfortable, especially with Corona, that we can be there often enough. But all in all, this puts the light on the entire raw material sector. So we built a strategy, as I mentioned, where we want to have as few actors as possible. We want to be as close to the mines as possible. We want to support in building more local and European supply chains. But first and foremost, we want to develop the circularity in the battery manufacturing. It's challenging now, and a lot of people are asking me, how will you ever make it? Because there's not going to be enough batteries out there, because everything is going to be in second life, or everything is going to be used in other application. But you have to remember that in the end of the day, and before we know it, this market is going to be mature. And in the end of the day, regardless of if these battery systems are put in this as second life, they can't stay there forever. If they do stay there forever, it's more or less landfilling. So when they are not used, and then they're not used in an optimized and efficient way, they should be recycled. And the materials should be brought back. The elements that are a very scarce resource, especially from a sustainability perspective, should be purified, they should be refined, and they should be brought back into the next generation of battery manufacturing. And this is so incredibly important. There is a fundamental difference between batteries and oil. And that is that the material we use in the batteries, they are elements, which means that they can be recycled. And they can be recycled again and again. And sometimes I get the question, can you really do that? Don't you affect the material? Someone even asked if the nickel is degrading. And yes, no material on this planet is really virgin. They are mined, but they've all been here since the start of the planet. So even if they've been in deep mines in the mountain, they're not being created there. They are elements. So we can recycle them if we know how to do it. Same thing with refining. So what are we doing then with recycling? We are in between the first and the second stage. So we've been spending now three and a half years maybe, developing the technology around recycling. And the challenge here was not to find how to do it, because when you refine the battery materials, you can use the same technology as you do when you use mine rare earth metals or basically mine whatever. It was more about how do we do this in a sustainable way? And sustainable meaning, can we create business models around this where it makes sense? And also sustainable being without buying tons and tons of chemicals to use as extractants for this recycling process. So we spend a lot of time on this, trying to find out how to do this, how to make recycling make sense, also in the early scaling of battery manufacturing. And why do we have to be early? It's because we want to be on top of it. We want to understand and be prepared for when the returns come, and they will come, that's for sure. Right now, we are doing the proof of concept in our pilot plant in Västerås. So we are taking battery materials, bringing it back into cells, testing the cells to prove that they work just as fine as a cell of virgin material. At the same time, we are scaling. So we are planning for a 4 gigawatt-hour plant up in Skellefteå. That plant will have started production somewhere early 2023. Including commissioning. We are also at the same time scaling in Norway. And why Norway? It's because Norway is a very early market. They are far ahead of us here in Sweden. They have a significant return flow from the market, and they have already created a lot of learnings on how to recycle end-of-life batteries, how to recycle recalls, and how to deal with insurance cases and so on. So this is something where we really acknowledge that infrastructure being built up, and we partnered together with Hydro and an NGO called, or non-profit organization called BatteryLoop that are supporting the car importers to recycle batteries. And creating learnings, but also building a recycling facility. So we will do pre-recycling there, and then the materials will be brought back to our material refining Hydromet in Sweden. And then in the future, we are scaling. I mean, we want to be 50% recycled materials in 2030. And this is challenging for sure. The competition here is mainly on the export of the valuable materials out of Europe. So what we're running for here is to make sure that we are creating this sustainability within the European Union boundaries. And why is this important? Is because for all those materials where we already went through heavy DD processes, where we already did strategic choices, where we already implemented all the sustainability criteria and ethical sourcing criteria, we want to sort of level on that again and again. So keeping those materials within Europe and being certain that we can leverage that in the benefit of our markets is really crucial. So that's for the future. We expect to continue scaling to meet our targets and also to meet the targets of supporting our customers with solutions for end-of-life recycling, of course. And today then, what are we doing? We are running our plant. So we are setting the new design criteria for the plant up in Skellefteå. We are developing all the materials that comes out of the process so that they can be used for more purposes, especially the ones that we can't recycle. We focus on the cathode. And then we are also working very hard on supporting the European Union in setting these particular strategies on how to scale on the market, how to prepare for a regulation that supports recycling, and how to really think about the future and the sustainability of electrification in the EV industry. Sorry for that. So this is very important. And the last point that I really want to bring up is, in recent times, I've been asked about other potential sources for material, for instance, deep sea mining. And what I find very important is that we join hands together and really explain how recycling will be one of the main solutions for the future of this planet and for electrification of the vehicle industry. Because if we accept that we will now start digging up raw materials also on the bottom of the sea, 3,000 to 4,000 meters below the surface, I think that then we really give up on this planet. So I think that there is also an idealistic part of this where I think we have a responsibility to really make sure that each and every element that we mine comes to a great purpose again, so that we avoid clearly to go mining in the deep sea and other potential harmful new solutions that might come up. So I think that with my throat having given up today, I thank you for your attention, and I hope that you have questions for me later.
Emma, thank you very much. And what's clear with your presentation and also with our others so far is that there's a real sense of vision. Sometimes seemingly crazy visions, but then great minds can work towards something. And yours is an amazing vision, and we wish you well moving that forward, and look forward to a little bit of discussion in the panel a little bit later. But thank you so much for introducing the work that you're doing there.
Thank you.
We shouldn't forget that circular economy is not a new thing. It's been part of lives for a long time. One of the great Nordic countries, Stena Recycling, has been involved for many years, and very much involved in the whole WE side of things, and also end-of-life directive, vehicle directive. And what we see is that world is changing very rapidly. And the successful companies are those who see that future and change their strategies accordingly. And this morning, delighted that we're joined by Rasmus Bergström, a friend to the Circular Materials Conference, Executive Director of Stena Recycling Group, also Managing Director. Whenever we talk, Rasmus, there's a new visionary idea and activity taking place. So great to connect once again this morning, and look forward to hearing one or two of your observations about how one stays and ahead of the game, in fact, leads the game in terms of the next stages of circularity. So over to you, Rasmus.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thanks, Emma, as well for that presentation. But before I start, I'm actually in the conference hall that we have been in a couple of last years. And today I could actually see 5 people in the room, plus me, so we have a very good COVID distance. I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope that we next year could actually meet again in the hall, because right now it's a bit empty. But it's nice to be back, and thanks, John, for all the work to put this together, and Peter. So today I just would like to touch a couple of observations that we have done within Stena on lithium-ion batteries. going from the small headphones or earplugs that you have or your father-in-law or mother has to the big lithium-ion batteries that we have in vehicles. I usually start to say regarding lithium-ion battery, this is a large opportunity, but it's a very small business right now if we compare to what we see going forward, and I will come back to that one. Before I go into that, I think what is important again to always remember the waste hierarchy. Where are we? Where do we want to go? How do we go up into the ladder of the waste hierarchy? We need to, as Emma said, we need to secure that this planet and this society is long living. We have to go from the energy recovery up to the recycling, to the reuse and reduce eventually. This is very, very important. And I think as well, before we went into this, we did a lot of work back before COVID into where are we on Asian market, where are we on the European market, where are we on the North American market. We did not map actually Africa or South America, but we did a lot of work in place in Asia and in the North America and in Europe to see, okay, what is best available technology? Where are we going? What is the regulations? How do we extract the most material into this? And how are we doing reuse in the different segments? Please remember always we need to increase and going upstairs. Well, as Hans-Erik Melin and Circular Energy Storage, they have tremendous lot of data on where do we go. The lithium-ion batteries will increase. If we just look at the 10 years development, I mean it's over 10-fold increase of market, and that going from the batteries we have at home to the big cars. We just saw the other day that as well also AB Volvo will go more and more electric. So I think this is a trend everywhere. We do not buy today a cord-driven lawn mower or vacuum cleaner to take Peter's cat's hair. I think we are going to everything is more or less battery-driven. This is a huge amount that we will see on the market, and there is something that we need to adapt in our development and in our investments to actually recycle this in a correct way. If we just look at the electronics material, everything, as I said, it's battery driven. ERA, the European Electronic Recycling Association, have done studies and reports saying that over 80% of the recyclers in Europe have incidents or serious fires based upon material coming from batteries. And of course, the way we are handling this, we will have that in the future as well. And this is something we need to secure. What we also see is that the seriousness of recycling is not always taken into consideration. This is a possible danger for society when we have everything in batteries. So we have to secure that these products are treated in a good way. And I know ERA as an example, but also a number of companies around Europe is looking at serious recycling. We have to always look at serious recycling of the material, independent if it's a car battery or if it's a lithium-ion battery from the hearing aid. Serious recycling exists. We cannot go into blindfolded and say we take everything independent where we are in Europe, the cheapest. Then we have to also look at, do we do this in a serious way? Do we secure that the recycling rates? Can we secure that we deliver the material back in a circular solution into the precursor, into the new batteries? This is very, very important. Just following what Emma said as well in how do we create a circularity? We have to have serious recycling. If we just look at the automotive industry, we talked about that as well. I mean, again, this is data from the European Commission, and there exist a number of different data and resources. But in 10 years, the automotive industry will go over 20-fold increase of EVs. In 2020, there was about 1.4 million EVs in Europe. In 2030, there will be over 30 million. And of course, this is a challenge for everything, from where do you and I charge our cars, how do we get that, how do we get the material back, how do we do the recycling of these, how do we scale up the recycling in Europe? Because we need to scale up the recycling in Europe. We mapped every single recycler in Europe to see where is the technology, how much capacity is it, and how will this be developed. And we will soon, from Stena recycling perspective, be very transparent what we're doing and how we will meet this increase. But important is there is the new regulation that came and was presented 10th of December from the European Commission. That will have an impact on how do we recycle and how do we reuse also all this material. And I think that is a very good way of going forward, and I support that regulation very, very much. And I think it's good for the serious recyclers. Drive to net zero. Drive to net zero is something we're talking about in the industry, independent if it's a electronics producer, car manufacturer, real estate owner. And I think what we need to look at as well from a reuse perspective is if we would reuse 50% of all the vehicles in 2030 that exist, we will save about 200 million tons CO2 per year if we reuse them after a second life. And I think this is very important to bring on, and then we will bring it back into serious recycling and to secure that we deliver back the material in a circular solution. And I think this is important for all of us, independent if we're battery producer, private consumers, or serious recyclers. So that means, I think, and I would say, that the regulation that we have on the table as well is stipulating reuse. And I would say we should look at reuse. And at the same time, we should look at serious second use. Because it exists. This is not a research activity that needs to be done. This is actually something that is there. Technology-wise, it's proven. Business-wise, it's proven. We have, within Stena Recycling, started a company called BatteryLoop, where this is done. And we show an economic value for the OEM, for the real estate owner into this. And then we do the serious recycling of all the material according to the regulations to put this into a circle. So we're building a complete circular solution. And I think that is very important to bring into the discussions going forward. And again, we have to work together. I think we're seeing a change in the society. We're seeing a change in the whole development in here. And I think it's really, really nice to hear Emma talking about the work we're doing all together in the different stakeholders. No one will save this planet by themselves. We have to do it together with production, remanufacturing, reuse, recycling, and back into the loop again. And Stena Recycling is part of that. So, thank you very much. Hope to see you in the room next year. Stay safe. And Peter, say hi to your cat.
Thank you very much, Rasmus. Some very important messages there, as well as hearing some of the exciting work you're doing. And yes, pushing up the waste hierarchy is got to be the order of the day. So I want to open up a little conversation with you a little bit later.
Thank you.
But we've heard 4 presentations which are illustrating some great thinking coming from the Nordic world. This conference is very much about trying to link and connect ideas, people, different organizations to offer us some sense of accelerating and scaling up that journey towards true circularity. The challenges are enormous. But what we'd like to do, and we're going to take a risk here, because all the people who've spoken so far are risk takers, and we're going to share a risk with you. We'd actually like to give an opportunity for those of you who are viewing this particular section of the conference, a chance just to randomly meet with up to 5 other people, just to say hello, introduce yourselves. It could be that you make some amazing new link for whatever business or other reason. So what we'd like you to do is from this, because we've got a complicated dual platform, everything in life is complicated in my world of technology. We'd just like you to go to the back into the main room and look at the program for day 1, and then just scroll down to the clickable Zoom link to the breakout room. So it's Plenary Session 1. Just click on that link, and by the magic of Zoom, we hope you'll end up in a room with up to 5 other people, and just do 3 things. Just introduce yourselves to each other. Secondly, just have a conversation about this vision, this Nordic vision, and how you're sensing progress is being made. And maybe thirdly, just add a comment or a question that we might feed back to our panel in the chat section. So without further ado, and if all fails, we'll see you back here in 10 minutes anyway for a panel discussion. But fingers crossed, please do take the plunge into the icy but exciting adventure waters of a random breakout group. It's only 10 minutes of your life and it could transform it. So what I'm going to invite you to do now is to go into those breakout rooms, 10 minutes, and then we'll see you back here and have a conversation with our panel. Off you go. Okay, so I think, fingers crossed, we are back together. We hope you managed to find your way into a random breakout room. We hope also that you managed to meet maybe some people you knew and also some people you didn't know. Because as I said before the break, it's about connections. We're reinventing the future, and that requires new connections, new ideas, and maybe it's people who are at the heart of making this amazing change take place. If you do have any thoughts or messages you want to put on the chat function, then I'll feed them in, because we just got about 10 or 12 minutes with our some of our speakers. We got Marthe, Jospeh and Emma with us, and I'm not sure whether we've got, is Rasmus with us as well? Someone will tell me whether we are, but I suppose I just wanted all of you are doing extraordinary and amazing things within your particular fields. I suppose I wanted to just go up in the battery-powered helicopter for a moment and just take a little bit of a strategic view of where we're at and where we're moving forwards. And I suppose I'd just be interested in your comments as to whether you are sensing that there is some special chemistry in the Nordic relationship, those countries, those universities, those businesses within that Nordic area that have got something special to offer in moving us forward, or whether that's just an artificial construct. So I just wonder, is there something that we feel is particularly special about the Nordic approach and something we should really be pushing further forward, or should we just back off from feeling that we are somehow particular or special? I wonder who wants to come in on that. Just wave a hand or plow in. Emma.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. So in Northvolt, we have a big challenge to attract the many thousands of talents that we need to bring to this region. We have talked a lot about this. We want to bring the expertise, the ones that are used to working with battery manufacturing. We also want a little bit of the Silicon Valley spirit. So We attracted some, I think it's 15 to 20 people from the Tesla management in the Fremont factory. But then what we are adding and what we have here is a great tradition on a few very important things. And one is optimization of industrial processes, lean production, process engineering in general. We're also very strong in scaling industries. We have a good safety track record, and of course sustainability. We have authorities that are very well prepared. They know all the substances we're talking about. They know all the footprint. They know exactly what we're doing. So we have a very, very strong fundamental platform in the Nordics for scaling industry in this new segment. And in circularity, a lot of these things fall into place, because when you scale down the outtake of resource, it also comes a lot with it. So I definitely think so. There is a big tradition. What we lack, though, a bit, we have the academic knowledge. There is a little bit in this specific industry. There is a little bit of gap in the company buildup. So since we had such strong fundament of scaled industries and an industry tradition, we are a little bit falling behind on the new company startup. So starting up. So that we see as an issue. People being a little bit scared of jumping to a scale, to a startup.
Okay, that's interesting. And Marthe, I wonder whether you might comment on that. Also, I'm just interested in that level of true cooperation between different countries within what we call the Nordics. I choose to believe you're all hugging in a cooperative way, but actually it could be quite the opposite, that everyone's sort of competing with each other. Just interested in that insight as to whether there's that real sense of collaboration, or whether people are linking or despite themselves rather than because.
Well, of course, there's competition between the Nordic countries as well, and between the Nordic companies, but I also think there is a real sense of unity as well in the Nordics, and perhaps it's been even stronger now during the pandemic, when you see that the value chains and the supply chains are changing, and it's very good. And then we saw that in the, when workshops between the Nordic countries, even in the digital workshop, people were sharing and they were helping each other moving towards a more circular business model, or the pilot ideas that they could start with. So in that sense, I think there is a sense of unity in the Nordics. But of course, we are competitors as well, and we need to find the right balance between the two, I think.
Right.
Attracting the talents is, of course, such an important. We are only 26 million here, 12th largest economy. We should have something to offer talents from abroad as well. So that's it.
Okay. I'm interested, Rasmus, you're there in Chalmers. I mean, in terms of having the people, the skills, the energy in kind of taking all this forward, are you finding no shortage of talent in the Nordics to recruit and to use in business development, or are there barriers and challenges there?
I would for sure say there are some challenges, but I would just in line with it. I mean, we're actually a couple of small countries. I mean, the population in the Nordic countries is less than the Bundestate of Bavaria and Germany. So I mean, and I think that is also coming, that we are cooperating and we're seeing things together in a way that we have to. The other thing I think we are coming from the Nordic countries, if we jump into that, is that, I mean, we're grown up with we have 2 waste bins in the kitchen. We are separating the cans. We have it from kindergarten, that we should be separating things, waste from resources. We're talking about resources, and I think that is something we can gain with in the recycling business and the circularity. If we then look at what we're doing within Stena Recycling, I would say the resources and the competence is global today, and I think we are utilizing the global network to get the resources and the knowledge into the company. I mean, even if Stena was started back in 39 and been working with waste handling since 39, being a long timer in the business, but we're still a very entrepreneurial driven company, looking at, for example, what we're doing with energy storage or with other reuse activities. So I think we're very entrepreneurial, but at the same time, and in that company, we're bringing in resources from and competence from all over Europe, mostly I would say from the Swedish market right now. But I think we need to have an ecosystem that we're working with to be able to say, okay, how do we develop this long term? And I believe that the changes we see is that we will require a different business model between the different countries, independent where we are in Europe or in the world, to optimize how do we do this. Do we have an obstacle to find resources? I would say we have very good technical universities. There are a lot of research in there, but some of the things we see, at least from both recycling and from second use, reuse, that is not research. That's making a commercial product into the market and have a business model that is flying for all the different parties, from first use to second use to recycling and the circularity. That's the challenge.
Okay, interesting. I just want to come back to you, Marthe, for a moment. Clearly, the Nordic Council of Ministers is a space where we're trying to get and encourage cooperation. At a European level, we've got the new Green Deal coming through, multi-billion investment. The COVID recovery plan also has opportunities to be a good recovery. I'm just wondering whether your observations are whether at and it's maybe invidious to ask you, but maybe you're the nearest thing to politics we have, just whether there's that, because I was conscious that you have quite a small budget for the big task that you have. And I'm not asking you to do special pleading for more budget, but I'm just wondering whether politically we're really stepping up to the plate to see the size of the opportunity here as well as the challenge, or whether it's still some sort of, let's do some pilot projects over there. I'm just intrigued as to whether we are fundamentally realizing that this is at the core of the future and are putting the level of political and other priority into it. I don't know whether you might dare to comment on that.
No, I mean, of course, we are following the EU Green Deal and the Circular Economy Stakeholder or the plan as well, and that will be into law. But I think that, okay, Nordic innovation and Nordic cooperation doesn't really have maybe that much money, but we can do quite a bit with little money. But the national innovation and research agencies, of course, have a lot of money and a lot of power to help companies and to step up. And I think that, Finland has a plan, Sweden has a plan, Denmark has a circular economy plan, and then Norway will publish theirs. I am sure there will also be money with that. But of course, what we can do in the Nordics is getting this cooperation, building these ecosystems for the future as well.
Right, okay, interesting. And I just want to, just a thought to you, Joseph. We need political level change. We need amazing innovation research taking place. We need businesses that are developing new business models. All of this is predicated on the fact that we've got consumers who consume stuff. And I just wondered if we're looking at leadership. We've seen some great examples. I just wondered among the populations in the Nordic countries, whether there is a growing sense of, hey, we are part of a big transition, or whether consumers and communities in Nordic areas are much the same as anywhere else. They're getting on with their lives, they're paying their taxes, they're trying to get the kids to school, and really all this stuff, someone else can sort it. I'm trying to live a life. Just interested as to whether you observe anything distinctive in the Nordic consumer zeitgeist that might be tapped into.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's an important point. My sense is that, yeah, there is a growing sentiment that we need to change on a consumer level, but in my opinion, it's still way far away from where we need to be. I mean, the reality is behavior change is one of the hardest things to achieve. And it's going to take a lot of effort to change consumer behavior. And yeah, so I think we have a long way to go. You see small changes, but especially in a highly developed country where you have a very comfortable populace, it is difficult to change. And plastic is comfortable, waste is comfortable, and trying to address it is not. So yeah, I still think we have a long way to go.
Right. Okay. We're out of time in this first session, but I just wanted to give each of you the opportunity for just literally a one-liner to take us forward. So our 2 days is a circular materials conference. A lot of people who are involved in the science, the technology, the business side of the transition. And we're looking very much about this idea of a Nordic lead on this. If you had one message you would like to be ringing in the ears of our delegates as they ramp up to meet the challenge of the future, I'm going to put you on the spot. What might that key message you would push into the conference and our delegates be at the end of this first session? Who would like to go first? Rasmus, you're looking ready to offer us a key message.
Key message, bullet point, I would say our strength in the Nordics is our ecosystem. If we are strong in the ecosystem from manufacturing to use, to reuse, to recycling, I think we will be the winner. Brilliant.
Okay. Joseph, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'd say the world is at an inflection point. It's ready to change. It's poised to change. And I do think there is huge opportunity in the circular economy, and the lead from the Nordic countries, I think, is also a huge opportunity. And I'd love to see that continue into the future, because we need it.
Emma, with a snowy background behind you.
It's a lovely factory here. I mean, what I always stress is that let's do it right this time. And I think we can do that. Let's do it data-driven. So when someone tells you that this is very important for sustainability and we have to do it like that, ask for the data behind it. I think that we are very good in the Nordics to be sort of scrutinizing the sources, really asking what's behind this, what's the reasoning. And when someone tried to leverage on sustainability, make sure to hold them accountable for that choice. I think we're good at that here.
Brilliant. And finally, Marthe, thought from you.
Well, I think we should continue the good Nordic cooperation and accelerate together the transition, and then we can lead.
Okay, acceleration, scale it up, and maybe this is an exciting adventure against a very challenging backcloth. So could I give a word of thanks to all our speakers for stimulating us and showing some real insight that change is taking place. And as we go through the next 2 days, we're certainly going to explore in more depth some aspects of that. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you for everyone else for joining in at the start of today. After the break, so at 10:30 Central European time, we are going to meet the disruptors, innovation disruptors. So we'll see you back at 10:30. So have 10, 12 minutes off, and no, nearly 20 minutes off, stroke the cat, have a cup of tea, and we'll be back because we've got some fascinating people with stories to tell and a chance for you to meet some of them. So see you back here at 10:30 CEST. Thank you.